All right, guys. Here we go. All right, Prez coming down in 3, 2, 1. You are live.
It's college basketball bonanza this week. We're going to start right off the bat. Steve Merrill's joining us. He's got 2 college basketball bets. Mark Zeno's got 1. We got some NBA plays. Tokyo Brandon at the end of the show. Teddy covers big game breakdown. My daily presidential address and so much more. Do not sell your Bitcoin yet. I will let you know when I'm selling mine. Welcome to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Prez and Teddy covers my co-host. This is the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Let's bring Steve Merril in right away. How are you, Steve?
Doing well, Prez. I want to know, will this be a tweet? Will it be a WagerTalk exclusive when you're selling Bitcoin? Will it be a big game breakdown Prez style? I need to set my alarm clock.
Well,
Teddy
you know
too.
what? I'm glad you asked me that because
I don't have any Bitcoin.
You can buy what he sells.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
No.
But the people who have been with me on this Bitcoin journey since day one have been the people on Wager Talk Today. So I will break my when I'm selling news on this show. But I promise you it will not be today. Steve, let's get straight into it, man. Townsend versus Charleston. -6 for the favorite, 139.5 is the total. I have not looked at the line, so I don't know if it's moved yet. How are we betting this game?
Yeah, I did some great, Teddy did them as well. You did them as well, Prez. Also, some great standalone 101 betting videos with Kelly Stewart last week that'll be on throughout the week here on Wager Talk TV. So click subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts so you don't miss them. And one of the ones I did was how to handicap college basketball. And I mentioned the number one thing I do in college hoops is look at tempo, pace, and it applies to these postseason tournaments as well. A lot of unique factors in these conference tournaments this week and the end of this week when the big boys start playing. But we're at the bottom half of the mid-major tournaments here. We're now in the semifinals of the Coastal Athletic Association. Don't pay any attention to my out-of-date sweatshirt Teddy covers. It's no longer colonial. It's coastal. I don't know if they did that for politically correct reasons or not. But anyway, Towson and Charleston have been 2 of the better teams in the Colonial and the Coastal Conference for many years. Charleston's been really the premier team the last couple years, but they're down a notch this year. William & Mary had a really weak season. Dane Fisher was let go yesterday, the head coach, after 5 years. And even with that, Charleston barely beat William & Mary by 1 point about a month ago. I was at that game. So I do think they're a beatable team. And Adam Trigger and I did a preview video for this entire tournament, which is still up on Wager Talk TV as well, to check that out for the semis and the finals. And Towson was my sleeper team. And I said that they had a really tough path as the 5 seed because I thought Wilmington might win the whole thing. But they got by Wilmington. And now they actually have a favorable matchup, in my opinion, against Charleston for a couple reasons. First, Towson plays extremely slow half-court defense. They're probably the best defensive team in the CAA this year. Charleston is a good offensive team, but they play fast, 55th fastest tempo in the country. And yes, Towson is playing their 3rd game in 3 nights, and I'm sure Teddy's going to mention that. Charleston's only playing their 2nd because they got that double bye. But I think the fact that it's a slow-down half-court game really helps a team playing their 3rd straight, and I think it's going to frustrate Charleston. And by the way, Towson plays at the 6th slowest tempo of anybody in the country out of 362 teams. That's how slow they play. Initial line we saw here was 4. It's now up to 6. Looks like it might even hit 6.5. I think a lot of that is based on the name and also on the rest situation. But I think Towson is a live dog in this one at 6 o'clock Eastern.
So Charleston won the most recent meeting 72-56. Is that right? Did I get that right from a couple of weeks ago? The game you saw. No,
February 24th.
And it was the game at William & Mary that stood out because you said that you watched the game at William & Mary. They struggled. They barely pulled away and won at the end. Since that game at William & Mary, that was back on February 19th.
Right.
5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread. They've been 83 plus offensively in 4 of those 5 ball games. It was like that was their lowest point or their worst effort all the way down the stretch. Do you worry at all sometimes when you see these teams play live that maybe you're catching an outlier performance that's going to give you a bad read on the team moving forward? Because all Charleston's done since that game is win games and cover point spreads.
Yeah, that was actually the second meeting on the 19th. They beat William & Mary by only 9 as a 16-point home favorite. That first game was actually February 3rd. They were a 13-point road favorite. And you're right, Teddy. That followed the loss against Wilmington. They haven't lost since that Wilmington loss on February 1st. It's been over a month since Charleston has lost, but I think that's another reason why this line is too high right now. It's priced in, I don't want to say perfection, but near perfection for this team over the last month or so. Towson, though, is a dangerous underdog, and Pat Scarry is a guy I followed closely. He was an assistant here back in 2000 to 2003 under Rick Boyages at William & Mary, and he's a guy that took over a Towson team 13 years ago that went 4-26. He went 1-31 his first season. 2 years later, he went 25-11 and won the conference. He's never won the CAA conference. Don't know if they can get it done this year, but it's a dangerous underdog, and this is something I'm looking for when playing the dog, maybe the inferior team, is a slow-down half-court style and a good coach, and I think Towson checks both of those boxes this evening.
Steve Merril joining us, everyone. You're watching Wager Talk Today. Take a second out of your day, guys, and hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel. And as Steve mentioned, this week we will be releasing a bunch of, I guess, Betting 101 videos. I did 3. I did one on betting percentages versus units. I did one on not overthinking bets. And I did one on something else. Steve, what were your 3 topics?
Yeah, I think a lot of us kind of did a similar like general money management type thing like you did. I did the keys to winning. I put the 3 most important factors to winning. And guess what? Picking the right team is not even one of the 3.
Right.
It's number 4.
Yep.
So that's my teaser for that, but I'm dead serious. It's not even number 1, 2, or 3. So check that one out. As I mentioned, I did how to handicap college basketball, and I also did how to handicap the NBA, including a little bit of playoff talk. So very pertinent to this time of year. Money management, shopping for line value, things like that, how to win long-term, but also how to handicap college and pro basketball.
Theodore, what were your 3 topics?
So I did one video on how to deal with losing streaks, something that we all go through from time to time. I did another video about why line shopping makes you money and how line shopping legitimately actually makes you money and puts it in your pocket. And I did a third video on betting the NBA after the All-Star break, second half NBA betting. So those should be all up, as you mentioned, at some point this week. I look forward to reading the comments, interacting with all of you who get into the chat with those videos. So check them out on the Wager Talk YouTube channel.
Yeah, and guys, the videos aren't long. I mean, I was told Teddy took 17 minutes on his. I actually asked. But most of the videos are pretty short. So check them out. They are coming up this week. We'll let you know as they go live. But it wasn't just Steve, Teddy, and myself. I mean, tons of handicappers weighed in. We got a lot of great info, betting info videos coming your way. And all of them were hosted by Kelly. Okay, Steve, let's move on to Montana State at Weber State. And listen, there is a 7.5 out there still, but it's -7 pretty much across the board. And the total, Steve, is at 145. No, I'm wrong. I'm reading the wrong one. Oh, there it is, 140. -7.5 and 140. So let's go. How do we bet this game?
Yeah, Montana over Portland State is -7, some 7.5s. Weber State against Montana State is 7.5, some 7s, as you said. So similar lines for the 2 Montana teams. One's a dog, one's a favorite. This is the first game at 7:30 Eastern tonight out in Boise, Idaho. It is Montana State at Weber State, 3rd round of the Big Sky tournament. And I like the favorite here, Weber State minus the 7 to 7.5. Opened as low as 5.5, but I think there's still value here. I look for a double-digit win from a 20-11 Weber team that just lost the most recent meeting. Shoot, not even the most recent meeting. They just lost their last game at the end of the season against a Montana State team that's still just 14-17 on the season. So we got quick turnaround revenge. It's an angle I like to look for here in the conference tournaments, especially when it's the better team. You know, we talk about revenge, second meetings. This is a 3rd meeting. But the reason it wins isn't because the revenge team is mad. You know, they get their revenge. A lot of times we get a misleading box score, which is something I'd like to look for. I think we had this in the previous meeting. I'll talk about that in a moment. But also because the better team is normally not going to overlook the weaker team in a focus spot in any sport. this is a conference tournament elimination game. They're not going to overlook them for that reason. They just lost to them recently, so they're not going to overlook them also for that reason. And it's also a situation where they lost the conference tournament game to them last year by 2 points. So it's a legitimate revenge spot. And oh, by the way, they won the first meeting on December 30th by 22 points. They just lost that game by 12 last week on March 4th, but they were 4 for 17 from three-point range. They were outscored by 27 points from beyond the arc, and they only lost by 12. That means they were plus 15 everywhere else that counts, free throw line and two-point range. This is a legitimate revenge spot, and it's one of those misleading box scores that I love to see. I like Weber State minus the 7.5 tonight on Monday.
So when we look at Weber State of late, you talked about the loss to Montana State as a favorite, by the way. They were -5 in that game. They were -6. The game goes to overtime. They don't cover. They were -3 at Idaho State. They lose that game by 18. They're -8 against Idaho. They win that game by a single point. They're -13.5 against. They win that game by 5. This team's been burning their backers' money as chalk. I mean, 5 of the last 6 they failed to cover, and they've lost a couple of those in outright fashion. Does it worry you at all that maybe the betting markets just have this team priced a little bit too high right now? Because this isn't a short-term thing. This has been for the last month. They've been failing to cover as chalk.
That is true. And they're still 4-5 against the spread the last 9. So they were 4-4 ATS going into that last game. But in certain roles, I guess you could fine-tune it and say that. But one thing I pointed out, I don't know if I mentioned this in the college basketball video, but it's an important factor to remember this week with the conference tournaments, is that this is basically a new season for all these teams. So I definitely look to take a contrarian view, especially in the initial game or two of a conference tournament. And often we get line value because of that. So I do think this line is a little short. I project a double-digit win, so I think some of those reasons are priced in. And I love digging into the box scores. Another thing I like is we get 3 meetings now. So those first 2 meetings, they won that first game, as I mentioned, by 22 points. They were -6 points from three-point range. That means they were plus 28 from two-point and free throw, which is a more consistent metric. And as I said in that last game, they were -27 points from 3 and only lost by 12. So they're the better team. They have a huge dominance edge down in two-point range, free throw line, things like that. They also hit 75% from the free throw line this year, which will help them pull away when you're around this key number of 7. That's kind of the foul, don't foul, especially in conference tournaments in which teams foul a little bit longer because their season ends otherwise. So a lot of things I like about Weber here, and I think sometimes you want to take a little bit of a contrarian recent results bias when you're handicapping this quote-unquote new season in March.
Steve Merril, everyone. Steve, what do you have to promote?
So we talked 2 college basketball games, a lot of college this week. It's a great time to get on board, but I do have a strong NBA best bet tonight. If you want my strongest play of the night, it comes in the NBA. Don't forget, ranked number 1 all-time at WagerTalk.com in both college and pro basketball sides combined. About 96% of my plays are side selections. I've got a strong NBA side tonight, but don't forget about college hoops. You can still get the March Madness special for just under $5 a day. The rest of the college hoop season through April 8th for just over $5 a day. No matter which option you choose, don't miss out a strong week in college and pro basketball. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And oh, by the way, daily free plays every day on my page as well.
Excellent stuff, Steve. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Teddy covers. So I had a crazy week of betting. Last Monday, we gave out a promo, 25% off any package, a ton, and I mean a ton of guys, well into the double-digit amount of guys and girls purchased my 7-day all access. They went 1-3 on Monday. Then they followed it up with another 1-3. 2-6 run by the Prez. Then I had a winning Wednesday, 3-2. Sucked on Thursday, 2-3. Got swept on Friday, 0-2. So Saturday morning, I wake up and I'm in a state. I just cannot believe my first 5-day slump in months and months and months. The timing of it was horrific. I have all these people counting on me, more clients on my 7-day all access than it's been on my 7-day all access in a long time, and I am shitting the bed. So I wake up Saturday morning. I write a note to Missy. Missy, please email my clients the following. And I write a personalized note, how sorry I am, how gutted I am. I can't believe this. Please, here's an extra couple of days on the house. Bear with me. I will get it going again. 8-1 Saturday, 3-0 Sunday, 11-1 run, fixed the whole week in 2 days. And there's a message in there, and that is, trust us. We're going to have really shitty days. We're going to have really shitty weeks. But man, I freaking turned it around big time. And I have worn the same track pants since Saturday. I'm currently wearing them now. They are getting smelly, but I will not take them off. It was amazing. I mean, the roller coaster in 1 week, holy moly. Anyway, I'm on an 11-1 run now. I'm feeling really good. I just rode the bike. You tell us, my friend, what did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
Well, Rudy Gobert is back in the headlines again. We remember Rudy Gobert. The last time he was in the headlines, he was the guy who touched every microphone at the Jazz media availability and then got coronavirus and single-handedly was the guy that caused the NBA season to be canceled or at least suspended. And obviously it might would have happened anyway, but it was Gobert playing games with the mics and then testing positive the next day. And that Jazz, I remember the game, was Jazz Thunder. That was the end of the NBA season right there and then. That's the last time Rudy Gobert was really making big headlines. So what did he do this past weekend? Well, Timberwolves playing the Cavs on Friday night. It's a tight game down the stretch. Gobert gets called for a sixth foul, and he flips out. Sixth foul. He goes like this to Scott Foster, makes the money symbol to Scott Foster. And then gets ejected from the game. The technical, by the way, cost the team the game. They ended up losing in overtime. And then his quotes after the game mirrored the stupidity of his quotes from the COVID era. Quote, "I'll bite the bullet again. I'll be the bad guy. I'll take the fine, but I think it's gambling is hurting the game. I know the betting and all is becoming bigger and bigger, but it shouldn't feel that way." And of course, the guy he made the money symbol to is Scott Foster, who's been linked to Tim Donaghy since the betting scandal 20 years ago. And maybe that's a big part of the NBA's image problem. Now, Gobert was double down on it. My reaction, which I think was the truth, it cost my team the game. It was an immature reaction, but it was the truth. Okay. Of course, worth noting, Rudy Gobert sat out last night after the final. The T-Wolves got blown out in the fourth by the Lakers. Okay. The guy's an idiot. I wouldn't worry too much about what he said. That being said, the NBA's image problem with the refs is very real, and it's not going anywhere. Then again, it's been that way for the 26 years that I've been in Vegas, and it's no different now. So in that regard, it still hasn't changed a whole lot. Rudy Gobert in the headlines saying something stupid. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Teddy, it shouldn't be a surprise to us. I mean, are we to assume that all athletes are really, really smart? Yeah. I mean, and him in particular, anyway. Nice take. Screw that guy. Let's bring Mark Zinno in and keep this show moving along. Mark, welcome to WagerTalk Today. What's happening, brother?
Gentlemen, great to be with you. I have a couple of just quick questions. One, what's more likely to happen first? Prez, you just sell your Bitcoin or change your pants? If we had to lay odds on that, I'm not sure which way we'd go. But I think,
definitely changing my pants, Mark.
Okay.
Because
pants minus 100 million.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'm wearing these pants until I have a losing day. At some point in the next 5 or 6 days, I'm going to have a losing day. But it could be close. I mean, look, my plan all along was to hold Bitcoin until I had enough to buy a chalet in Whistler. I'm super freaking close.
All right.
I'm actually speaking to a real estate agent in Whistler today. So that was always the plan. I'm right at the cusp of it. So who knows? Look, for my client's sake, I hope I sell Bitcoin before I change.
Oh, yeah. And I just want to make sure we didn't lose our stream. They were just completely shut down. Just give me. I have to reset everything. Everything got lost, so I'm just changing everybody's names. Pop up. Wrong, so just give me 2 minutes. Can you actually press? You're usually on YouTube. Does it look like that feed is still up and it has a screen that says technical? Okay, cool. Then we're still good, so we can still use this. So, I'll fix this on the fly. Going on Prez, and you're coming back in 3, 2, 1.
Technical difficulties, everyone. Our humble apologies. It sucks. And right when I was talking about Bitcoin, I hope that is not an ominous sign, Teddy covers. Mark Zeno, are you still with us?
Yep, you're good.
Never reference that B word on this show anymore because it never works out well for you when I do. So I'll refrain from talking about Bitcoin.
Mark, hold on. Dan, I think we lost the stream. Yeah, WagerTalk. Yeah, we lost the stream. Nope, we're back. We have the stream. Everyone heard that, and that's okay. Mark, let's get straight into it, man.
Yes.
NBA tonight, Golden State Warriors. They're playing San Antonio. It's -4.5, a total of 227.5. How are you betting this game?
I'm taking the Warriors here, and I'm laying the 4.5. Look, I think there's a couple of different overreactions here. One, the Warriors are without Steph Curry. So that's changing the line here a little bit. But, Prez, these two teams played 2 nights ago, and the Spurs pulled off the upset and outright win as a 12.5-point underdog. And now we're seeing an 8-point difference in the line because the game shifted from Golden State to San Antonio. If we, let's just say, for argument's sake, San Antonio, one of the worst teams in the league, is worth 2 points for home court advantage. Are we sitting here saying that Steph Curry alone is worth 6? Because that seems excessive for one player. It feels like a massive overreaction, especially since in that game, Golden State shot just 33% from 3, And the Spurs shot 51% from beyond the arc, which is way above their normal average of 35. So I think those numbers regress back to the mean here, meaning Golden State will get back up into the high 30s on their threes. Spurs will come back down. The Warriors are the better shooting team overall. I think we're going to take advantage of a short number here. And Golden State is an NBA best 20-9 against the number on the road, even without Steph Curry. I still like Golden State here against this 4.5 here. I'm going to back them tonight. It's a client play as well for me on WagerTalk.com.
So, of course, the big move is not just based on Curry and the switch of home courts. San Antonio didn't have Victor Wembanyama. They didn't have Devin Vassell for the first meeting. Both of those guys are expected to return the floor for the Spurs tonight, hence the 8-point differential between the closing line the other night and what we're seeing today. But my question for you here is very simple. Are the Warriors any good? Is this a team that we can trust to lay 4.5 points with against anybody right now? Because Golden State, when you think about what's happened to them in the last week, all right, they had the game at Boston where they were humiliated, embarrassed, and shown they weren't championship contenders. And then they lose at home to Chicago. And then they lose at home to San Antonio. And then Curry gets hurt. Does this team have the mindset? Or are they, I mean, I look at the Warriors and I think this team might be stick a fork in them done.
No, Teddy, you're leaving out a big game there because after they got embarrassed by Boston, they went out and beat Milwaukee the next night by 35. So if Milwaukee is as much of a threat to win the title as Boston is, and I think they are, I mean, obviously Boston's a better regular season team. They have to prove it in the postseason. But this is also a Warriors team here that, despite losing 3 of the last 4, Teddy, had only lost 2 games dating back to the beginning of February prior to that. So they've turned it on here in the second half of the season and have put themselves in a position where they could be a real dangerous team, especially if they're 100% healthy. Draymond Green's back. Things have settled in. The Warriors have been a play on here in the second half. Hard to justify the loss to Chicago and San Antonio in back-to-back nights. But again, Steph Curry didn't play against San Antonio. So I think this is a team that veteran experience helps them out in a spot like this. After facing the team 2 nights ago, they'll play them again. I'm not too worried about them winning the game. And I'm not sure the spread really matters. Like, if the Warriors only win this game by 2 or 3, they probably didn't deserve to win it at all, if that makes sense.
Mark Zeno, we're not going to argue whether that makes sense or not. We're just going to let that hang in the air. Okay, brother. So we got it moved to Hofstra and Stony Brook. Now, I was on Hofstra yesterday as one of my plays in my 3-0 day. So right now, at this moment, I have a little love for them. Are we betting Hofstra minus? There's now a few 8s on the board, but 7.5, 8. Is this the play, or are we taking Stony Brook?
I'm going with Stony Brook here. Now, all deference to Hofstra. I grew up in Long Island, obviously. I played my home football games on Hofstra University's
Why,
football
obviously?
Right next to.
I don't understand the obviously part.
Well, Hofstra's on Long Island. It's where I grew up.
I know, but you grew up on Long Island, obviously.
Yes.
I didn't know that you grew up on Long Island. I didn't think it was that obvious.
I thought it was like, a token thing that everybody knew I was from New York.
Oh, everyone. The whole world knows that you're from New York, Mark Zeno, and specifically Long Island.
Yeah.
Now that we've the one person being me did not know, but now that we have that clarified, let's go back to the game.
Yes, let's go back to the game.
Obviously.
By the way, Teddy is correct. Stony Brook also on Long Island, but much farther out east, and it's traffic, and I want no part of it. Look, I think there's a fair argument to say both of these teams really shouldn't be in this game, right? The Seawolves probably shouldn't be here. Drexel gifted them this spot. I was on Drexel yesterday. They were up by 12. They blew it in the final 5 minutes, went to double OT and lost. Delaware played a game. I'm sorry, Hofstra played a game against Delaware where the Blue Hens went 2 3-minute stretches and 1 6-minute stretch where they didn't score a single point. So they went 12 minutes of a 40-minute game not scoring a single point. Part of the reason probably why Hofstra's here. I think this is too many points that they're laying, and this number continues to grow here. They won both games against Stony Brook this year. Hofstra did by a combined 7 points. Hofstra had to come back in both of these games in the second half to steal the win. The first game at Stony Brook, the Seawolves went 4.5 minutes, scoring just 1 point in the second half of that game. Hofstra shot near 52% from the field, and they got the win. And then the game at Hofstra, Stony Brook led by 10 at halftime and then went 7+ minutes in the second half, making just one field goal. And Hofstra shot 43%. Now, I know the double overtime here, I think, is inflating this number with the public because Stony Brook had to play that double overtime game. But this is a Seawolves team that is 22-8-2 against the number this season. Hofstra has to make shots at a very high rate for them to cover this number, and I just don't see them doing it. When they don't hit in the high 40s from a percentage standpoint, they're going to be stuck in tight games the whole way through. Covered the CAA a lot this year. It's one of the conferences I've hit really hard. I don't think Stony Brook is going to win this game, and they might run out of gas at the end here, but I think they keep it closer than this 8 points that's starting to pop up all over the place.
Let's talk about tired legs and how the markets react to tired legs. Obviously, you have a team that played on Saturday, multiple starters, 30+ minutes. The key guys, 35+ minutes. Yesterday, for Stony Brook, we got Clark playing 48 minutes, Stevenson Moore at 45, Knoll at 39, Madoff 38. It's only an 8-man rotation for that squad. So now it's third game in 3 days, off a double OT win. Everybody's played major minutes. It's not a deep rotation. You said you're worried about them getting gassed at the end. If they get gassed with 7 minutes left, you ain't covering. I don't think you're going to cover. How concerned are you about this team being gassed, and would you consider a first half play versus a full game play or anything like that to mitigate some of the risk for a tired team on the third of back-to-backs off a double OT thriller?
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say the first half play might be worth it. I would wait to see if this number continues to grow. I mean, Teddy, I kind of say repeatedly to everybody, what a lot of these big numbers, if they ain't covering early, they probably ain't covering late, right? And that's usually what it would look like for this spot here, that Stony Brook could come out very fast and have a lot of energy at the beginning and then fade out. But, I think the thing is this, and let's go look at the test case here of UNC Asheville in the – what conference are they in? Was it SoCon they were in? I forget which one it is. But they had to play 2 games in back-to-back days where they had to overcome major deficits in the game. I think that is more draining than necessarily the double overtime. I think the emotion of that, of overcoming big leads, sometimes is more draining than the double overtime, especially for a team like Stony Brook that, was the underdog, right? They are feeling it right now. I think a first half play is fair, but I'm sort of banking on the fact that Hofstra is not going to be able to hit in the high 40s because I just haven't seen them do it with enough consistency shooting from the field throughout this season. They've had some really good games, but they've had some really bad ones too, where they just don't hit shots like they used to.
Mark Zinno. Brother, sorry we had some technical difficulties while you were on. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Maybe it's not a topic you want to speak about. Maybe it is. I don't know. But you've got a folded up flag behind you. That normally means somebody close to you passed, but I could be wrong. Tell us about that flag if you want to.
Typically, you are correct. That's what it is. However, that flag that is over my shoulder there was actually flown over the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. in my honor while I was deployed in Iraq in 2005. I had a friend of mine who worked for a congressman from Arkansas, and they flew a flag in my honor, and I got a certificate in the flag. And the only proper way to store that flag is to case it, fold it and put it within a case like that. So that's why it's stored that way. And that was a flag that was flown over the Capitol in my honor.
Mark, Eric
Cool.
DeLong did not know you were obviously from Long Island. I did not know you were a vet. So thank you for that. How long were you in the Army for, or Marines, or Nate, whatever it was?
I'm actually still serving in the reserves now, but coming up in May, I'll have 25 total years of service between active duty, National Guard, and reserves.
That's amazing. Wow. No wonder you're such a freaking beast. Okay, so I thought I could kick your ass because of these. I'm going with no, I'm thinking you could kick my ass. So my son-in-law, not yet, but he will be my son-in-law. He's in the Army up in Canada. And I introduced him to a guy a few days ago, and I was like, his name is Stav. I'm like, Stav, this guy is a black belt jiu-jitsu, fights all over the world. He could kick your ass. And Stav goes, I'm trained to kill.
Yeah. I mean, that's the card that's always fun to play. Well, I have killed people, So I say it to Brian Power often, he chuckles with me.
Dude, thank you for your service, brother. That's amazing. I had no idea. Obviously, I should have. And yes, I'm going to dine out on that. What do you got to promote?
Heck of a week last week in the NBA. Ended up 8-4. It was an 8-2 start, but Saturday and Sunday weren't kind to us. Been on a really hot run. Was in the top three, or still in the top three of NBA handicappers last 30 days over at WagerTalk. Also near 60% on point spread bets since the middle of February in college as well. So we got a 4-pack of games coming up tonight, including the one play I just gave out there. Also a free play posted up on my page over at wagertalk.com, wt.buzz/MZ. Go get it, guys.
Thanks, Mark Zeno. Teddy, man, good thing I asked about that flag. I had no idea. Did you?
Live and learn, Lawrence. Live and learn. Do you know much about many of the guests that come on? I can't think that you do. It's not like we hang out with these guys every day. We see them here on air.
Yeah, no, I don't, but I try to.
So the fact
right?
that you're some old guy that no one tells anything to doesn't surprise anyone. I mean, you're just you're becoming more relevant as the days pass, my friend. It's just how it works.
And you know what? I freaking love it that way. Please. I don't want to be I'm good, man. I quiet the noise and let me work out. So you were on an 8-1 big game breakdown going into Friday. I am not familiar with whether you won or lost that play. Tell us, and let's hear what your big game breakdown is.
I think I lost on Friday. I'm trying to remember which one I used, but I used the under. Playoff intensity. Yeah, the line was playoff intensity at regular season prices. That was fun. Yeah, didn't get there. So it's now an 8-2 run. It is what it is. I don't track my free plays. Every once in a while they get on a good run, and you guys tell me about it. So I appreciate that very much. That being said, big game breakdown for today. Let's talk some ESPN college hoops tonight. This is a client play for me on Monday night. St. Mary's against Santa Clara. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. All the money's coming for the Gales, up to minus 11.5, total 135.5, right here at the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. I want to talk about the concept here as much as anything. Conference tournaments versus Ken Pom. Ken Pom is how point spreads are set. It's a well-documented, well-researched, well-analyzed group of analytic numbers that are going to give you a sense of how good teams are and where point spreads should be. And in general, you're going to see point spreads relate very closely to how Ken Pom has the rankings. Ken Pom ranks St. Mary's the number 22nd, number 22 in the country. They rank Santa Clara number 115 in the country. Huge differential between the two, according to Ken Pom's numbers. And certainly, you look at the two meetings this year, the first meeting was 73-49. The Gales dominated at Santa Clara, completely took the Broncos out of their game. It was the Broncos' worst offensive showing of the season. The second meeting started out exactly the same way. The Broncos had 22 at halftime. They trailed by as many as 27. And then in the second half, they kind of figured it out. They hung 55 on the Gales after the break. I believe that's the most second half points St. Mary's allowed all season. They were plus 13.5. They ended up losing by 5. So we look at the two meetings. One tight game, one blowout. Even though the tight game was a blowout early, Santa Clara figured it out. Last year, same story. One tight, one blowout. 221-22, met 3 times, all tight. Most of the games in this recent series history, 5 of the last 7, have been tight, competitive affair. We look at St. Mary's. St. Mary's always gets the double bye. How do they do in these conference tournament openers? Last year, they won by 7 over BYU. Tight, competitive game. The year before, they played Santa Clara. They won by only 3. Tight, competitive game. The year before, they beat Loyola by 5. Same story. Tight, competitive game. They're not built for blowouts at the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas after a week off. The powering number for the Gales is through the roof. There are no point spread bargains for that team. The value on the dog. I'll take Santa Clara plus the points. And the money keeps coming on St. Mary's. Seen 11.5s out there. Yes, there are a couple of Santa Clara injuries. These are guys who've been out. I think they'll be fine and hang tough. Give me the points. There's your big game breakdown back to you, Mr. Prez.
Teddy, we got Tokyo Brandon still to come. We need 12 more likes for a daily presidential address. Before we get into that, I want to tell everybody we have a college basketball promo up. It's good for anybody you want. It's on their individual page. It is $149 for all the college basketball plays right up until the nets are cut down. And to give you perspective, my college basketball today, $25. So you're basically looking at 6 days of college basketball or the entire 3 weeks of college basketball that's upcoming for only $149. 4 weeks, okay? 4 weeks. It's 3.5 or no, it ends on a Monday, so you're right. Anyway,
I know.
Guys, I'm the man. Flat out. I killed it last year in March Madness, double-digit units. I killed it on the whole season last year in college basketball.
Lawrence, you did a 3-minute promo already. You don't get a second one.
Yeah.
You have a presidential address coming.
I didn't promo anything, Teddy. Nothing.
When you talked about your week and your 11-1 run, and you're the guy to go and come get me.
No, I didn't say any of that,
story
Teddy.
Wasn't a promo for you.
Dan, rewind the tape. Okay, guys, so let me tell you about my weekend of betting. You're wrong, Teddy, but fine.
Okay.
I'll stop promoing, okay? I'll do it in my daily presidential address.
Promo someone besides you.
Well, we're going to promo Tokyo Brandon. You know, Tokyo Brandon is an actual betting machine. Dude, every year you are making insane profit. It's mostly in baseball. There is a link. You were a scout for baseball, and you do live in the region. So this is a sport you know a ton about. We're going to get into that after, but right now you got 2 client plays to give out. Baltimore Orioles over 90.5 wins is one of them. Tell us why.
Hey guys, what's up? Thanks for having me. The Orioles.
Wow, interesting mic. This is a nice depth to your microphone.
Hey, I'm smooth. I'm like Billy D. Williams, you know. So they won 101 games last season, and if you look at what they did in the offseason, they added Corbin Burns, and Corbin Burns is an absolute stud. I love what they did in the offseason. The hitting has always been there. But if you take Corbin Burns and you cover his name, you cover his logo, you look at his career compared to other pitchers, I mean, he's an absolute stud. Up there with anyone, you know, and you add this to the rotation, and the book has their win total at 90.5, and I have no idea why it's at 90.5. So, you know, I don't see anything the Orioles did in the offseason to drop them 11 games from last season. Bradish is a little injured, but he's going to be coming back. They have a great rotation, and I have them ranked as the best farm system in all of MLB. So, you know, if you look at Corbin Burns, he's going to add a lot to this rotation. He's going to let them slip some pitchers into the middle relief. I mean, great lineup, lost nothing, best catcher in Major League Baseball. I have no idea why this is at 90.5, but I'm betting the over, and that's a 3% client play for me.
Excellent. Tokyo Brandon joining us. Guys, we are going to run the show late, so not to worry. Brandon, listen, I'm not against this play, and I think the Baltimore Orioles are a really good team. What worries me here is so are the Jays. Tampa Bay seems to find a way every year. The New York Yankees have a lineup from the gods above. Boston is going to be improved. This division, like any division Toronto finds themselves in, is insane. Does that concern you at all, given that they're going to basically beat the shit out of each other all year?
Wow, Prez is playing devil's advocate this time. I like it. Well, I disagree with you on a couple of those takes. I think I mean, you might be biased because you live there, but I don't think the Blue Jays are anything this year. They didn't really improve in the offseason. I don't like Kikuchi. a lot I don't like about the Jays. I think they're going to slip a little, and they've always underperformed as a mediocre team. The Rays lost all 4 of their starters in the rotation from last year. I think the Rays will struggle to get to 500 this season. The Yankees lineup, I mean, Giancarlo Stanton, has he even had 500 at bats once in the last 5 years? So I don't know. The Yankees. Another thing to consider is teams will play less division games this season. I think they're only playing 12 instead of 15 or something like that. So it's less division games this season. All in all, I see the Orioles improving a lot more than anyone else in this division did. And the Red Sox are going to stink this year.
Teddy?
So I want to ask about Corbin Burns for a moment, because you're real high on Burns. You're like, Burns is the reason that we like the Orioles over.
Yep.
Did the Brewers even have a winning record with him on the hill last year or the year before? Or the year before that? I mean, he's won 11, 12, and 10 games. I know he's been good in terms of keeping the team competitive, but it's not like he's been this ace who's just, you have to have him on the hill and he's dominant and his team wins every game behind him. Do we expect that transition for Burns in Baltimore? Because he wasn't that in Milwaukee.
As a scout, I never look at wins when I grade a pitcher because the pitcher has no control whether he wins or loses. What he does have control over is how many runs he gives up and how many innings he pitches. So if you break it down, what you want from a pitcher is lots of innings and very few runs, and that's what Burns delivers. In the last 4 years, his whip is sub 1, and he's pitching over 150 innings in those 4 years if you average it out. So I think he's a stud. I think he's a workhorse. And anytime you can bring a pitcher in that gives you 150 innings of sub 1 ERA, it can be nothing but a boost. And so I like the over because I just don't see why the book is subtracting 11 wins from last year's win total.
Tokyo Brandon, before we get into your next game, I just want to let everyone know Brandon is the #1 handicapper in all sports 2 of the last 3 years. There are over 30 guys at WagerTalk, all of them outstanding. Some of them are freaking legends. And Brandon has beaten them all. He's also the #1 handicapper in profit this calendar year, #2 all time in baseball profit. You got a promo to give it out, and then get straight into your next game, your next bet, which is on Trey Turner, because we are running out of time.
Will do. If you go to my page at wagertalk.com, Tokyo Brandon.
Are you doing phone sex after this?
You like my voice, huh?
Guys, Tokyo Brandon will be doing phone sex from 1 to 2 Eastern time. Call him on 1-800-HOT-VOICE.
I'm like Ginger from Gilligan's Island. But anyway, you could go Ginger or Marianne, but I always like Ginger. But anyways, so if you take my MLB, my KBO, my Japanese baseball, they're all packaged together for 55% off. It's an early bird, so once the season starts, it won't be available. But if you go to my page now at wagertalk.com, you can get all 3 of those seasons for 55% off, no coupon code needed. So jump into Trey Turner. Trey Turner last season actually literally apologized to Philadelphia Phillies fans because he said, I had a horrible season. But if you look at his season, it actually wasn't that bad. He hit 266. I think he had, 26 home runs last year, and that was a season high for him. So I think last year was kind of an anomaly because the World Baseball Classic was last year. And if you look at a lot of the elite athletes, except for Shohei Ohtani, the World Baseball Classic kind of threw them off their rhythm last year. Trout was off. Trey Turner was off. A lot of the Japanese hitters were off as well. But he still hit 26 home runs, which is a career high. And if you look at it this year, I've always looked at Trey Turner as kind of like Mookie Betts light. He's not as good as Mookie Betts, but he's basically in the same mold. And he doesn't really aim for home runs. He just makes really good contact. And, a lot of times it goes over the fence. His home run prop is 23.5, and I think that's way too low. I think Trey Turner is going to have a big breakout season this season. And I like the over 23.5 home runs for Trey Turner this season. That's another 3% client play that I gave out.
So this is a guy that's been in the majors since 2015, and the only year he's ever gone over this number was last year, and he was healthy last year.
I knew you were going to say that.
Got you. Yeah. That's the that's the question. I mean, I get the concept, but I mean, the books are putting out the 23.5 because they think they can get, in theory, two-way action on that. And I know there's not a lot of public money coming for unders on bets like this. So it tells us clearly that there's someone out there who pays attention to analytics who's betting under on this, which is why it's 23.5. But again, he's an injury in theory kills you, and it's not a guy. He's not a guy who's been healthy consistently throughout his career.
Yeah, an injury, we could say that for any player, because an injury will kill any player's season, even Corbin Burns.
For overs,
Garrett,
if you're betting injury, well, if you're betting unders, you love you get hurt, let them all get hurt.
True, very true. But Trey Turner, I think, is determined this season because last season he actually came out and apologized, but he hit 266 with 26 home runs. And I think the switch to Philly, better ballparks, worse pitchers that he's facing that he did the year before he was traded. He played for LA and Washington. You're right, he never got that home run total, but last year he did, and he said he was off. And the World Baseball Classic really did throw the rhythm off for a lot of guys. I think he's going to hit 30 home runs this season, because if you look at his form, he's just perfect. I mean, he basically is Mookie Betts with a little less power. Man, I just think he's going to break out. These guys are human, and he feels kind of bad about what happened last season. If you look at his quotes, he's like, "I'm coming back. I'm back with the force. I'm going to show you guys." So I think he's going to prove it to the Philly fans this year. He's got kind of a vendetta inside him. He's got to pay off. So
there we go, Tokyo Brandon, everyone, and guys, honestly, take advantage of that promo. Tokyo, I played poker on Friday night. A friend of mine was like, "Oh, you handicappers can't win, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, guys, and I swear this is true. You play Tokyo Brandon from start to finish every year, you're going to win a shit ton of money. I could have singled out anybody in that conversation, and I singled out you. Love
Appreciate
you, bro. Now go do your phone sex. Get out of here.
Hi.
Okay, Teddy covers. It's time for the daily presidential address. Okay, Dan, so I got a little bit, I got Teddy a little riled up. He felt that I over-promoted on the show today. He was not right, and that's okay. I have two bets to give out in my daily presidential address, but given that this is going to be cut and put up on Twitter, I'm going to tell you. I'm on an 11-1 all sports betting run. You heard it at the beginning of the show. You'll hear it again. I got a big NBA play tonight, 4%. I almost never have 4% plays. I had one a few days ago. I won it. I also have one NHL and one college basketball. I am in must-bet mode right now. Okay, your two games for tonight. Boston in regulation, -135. The big bad Bruins are back. They had a terrible slump. Terrible in relation. Now they're playing the St. Louis Blues. I think the St. Louis Blues are a bet against team moving forward. I took the under with them and the Rangers on Saturday. It cashed. I think the Blues are going to struggle to score. I think we're going to see around a 4-1 hockey game. Boston in regulation -135. And man, anytime there's a 5.5 in a New York Islanders game, you got to look to take it over. This team has scored in their last 5 games 6, 7, 4, 5, and 5. And the Kings can score. They're not the world's greatest scoring team, but they can put up 3 goals. I like the over in the LA Kings New York Islanders game. Teddy, thanks for doing this with me. We'll see you tomorrow. Take us home, my brother.
Sure. It's a special time of year. This week, next week, the best 2 weeks of the season for college basketball. We have MLB, that is spring training and right on tap. We have NBA that the market's paying attention to as much as they should, even though Arthur Caesar disagreed with me. And all of this every day. And of course, NHL Let's not forget that. Not a sport that I do, but a sport that many at WagerTalk do a lot better than I can. Be sure to join us each and every weekday, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. We'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Best of luck and enjoy the games.